Hello everyone, it's Foo here, and today I want to bring you another VGC Series 8 team, this time with an extremely strong restricted Pokemon, that is Cherrim. No, I jest. It's actually going to be Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is an amazing legendary Pokemon. I think it looks amazing. It's one of my favorites. And I really wanted to build around it, but I was very aware that against certain teams, and especially Kyogre teams, it might be quite weak, obviously, because of the fire-water matchup. So I wanted to build a team where Ho-Oh wasn't weak to that matchup, that it actually matched up really well against those teams. And this is what I came up with. Basically, it's a Sun team, a secret Sun team, because we don't have Torkoal on it. And it's got Cherrim as one of the really important characters on this team. So I thought that would be really fun. That's what we're doing today. I'll take you through some battles, show you this team. You can use the team code, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So let's get straight into some battles so you can see how it works. So this first battle is actually a Kyogre matchup, which is kind of perfect because it'll be able to show you what I was going for when I built this team. It's a pretty zany team, very offensive, and it's all about getting the Ho-Oh to work. I don't really Dynamax anything else on this team, so it's kind of matchup based. You do have to be careful, but the team has a lot of support for Ho-Oh, so against most matchups you will be able to come up with a way to get Ho-Oh to do some crazy work. But anyway, let's get into this one so you can see how I can go about countering these Kyogre teams. So my opponent's going to lead off with Regieleki Kyogre. Both Pokemon seem to be pretty threatening to Ho-Oh, so this isn't necessarily an ideal lead. But actually for this team build, it's kind of what I want to see. It's not too worrisome. And I know that sounds strange, but we do have ways to try to take this on. And so I'm going to Dynamax straight away. So you can see that I'm relatively confident that Ho-Oh can take these Pokemon on. Ho-Oh does have a base 154 special defense stat, which is insane. That's so high. So it can take super effective hits, especially when it's Dynamax. It can take super effective hits. But a Kyogre's Water Spout in the rain will do way too much damage. So that's why we're going to go for Prankster Sunny Day with Whimsicott. So we can turn that rain into the sun. That not only does it weaken the water type moves because it's no longer raining, but it halves them because it's now sunny, which is amazing. The Regieleki goes for the Electro Web. It's going to be super effective on my Ho-Oh, and it will drop its speed. That's not too much of a problem because we know that we can take a water hit in the sun now. And I activate the weakness policy, which is fantastic. So now I'm really strong. We also activate the eject button, which is really fun. I'm actually running an eject button Whimsicott because I want to switch out, not because I want to switcheroo it onto something else. Because now I can bring in my Cherrim, which gets the Flower Gift, which is an amazing ability that boosts its attack and special defense in the sun, but it also gives those boosts to its ally. So that's why Water Spout did so little there, because it's got a Flower Gift special defense boost, and I'm getting an attack boost from the Flower Gift too. So Cherrim does so much. It's actually really powerful in the sun in doubles because it gives Ho-Oh an attack and a special defense boost. It becomes insanely specially defensive. We've just got a Max Quake special defense boost as well. So Ho-Oh's special defense at the moment is through the roof. We're in the sun, which is fantastic. That's powering up our fire type moves. But we do see here that the Kyogre is now going to Dynamax. We have to remember we've got a -1 speed on the Ho-Oh thanks to the Electro Web. So that's not really ideal, and we do want to try to mitigate that. I'm max speed on my Ho-Oh, so if I get my speed back up, we should speed tie with this Dynamax Kyogre. They're going for the Max Geyser. We can eat that up because it's in the sun. We've got loads of special defense boosts, but unfortunately they're going to switch off the sun, turn it back to rain, and we lose our Flower Gift, which is pretty bad because we lose the special defense boost. We lose the attack boost. That's not great at all. But I'm just joking because we've got Sunny Day on the Cherrim as well, so we can set that all back up, and we're looking good again because we've got the attack boost, the special defense boost, and we're lowering Kyogre's power, which is so great. And that's why it's really important to have like multiple ways of setting up the sun on this team. Now we can go for the Max Airstream. The Amoonguss actually has the Cobra Berry, but because we're a Dynamax Ho-Oh with the Flower Gift boost, we can just destroy this Amoonguss despite its Cobra Berry. So that's pretty fun. Oh yeah, and we've got our weakness policy as well. So there's absolutely no way that Amoonguss is going to survive that. So that was pretty fun seeing a Cobra Berry Amoonguss getting completely destroyed by a Max Airstream. And now we should be speed tying with the Kyogre because we've got the speed boost. Now I do also have the helping hand on my Cherrim. They go for the aerial ace with the Kartana that doesn't take out my Cherrim. I think my Cherrim's max HP, but not max defense, so I was slightly surprised we survived that. The Kyogre unfortunately also outspeeds, so we're losing the speed tie there, but because of all of our special defense, we can take even the electric type move very easily and just go for a max airstream here into the Kyogre. I mean, helping hand boosted, flower gift boosted, weakness policy boosted, that's definitely going to one-shot a Dynamax Kyogre, which is pretty crazy, and we get another speed boost, which will mean that on the following turn we should be able to outspeed the Kartana unless it's anything like a Choice Scarf or something like that. But you can see here this was just Ho-Oh decimation against a Kyogre Regieleki lead, which I thought was pretty hilarious. They brought the Kartana in the end there because I do have a Tapu Fini on this team, and so they kind of need to bring a Kartana to try to deal with that. But that was a really fun battle, and it's demonstrating like that was the concept behind this team, building a Ho-Oh team that does well into those Kyogre teams. Which are usually kind of brainless and you can predict them quite easily. And you can see that if they go for a Water Spout or if they Dynamax, we've got ways to try to counteract the Kyogre damage. So really nice that you can activate your weakness policy very safely. In the sun, they're going for the water type moves and we can tank those super easily. So that's very fun. If you're enjoying the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe for more content. Now let's look at a different team and how Ho-Oh fares up against this. And I want to show you this one because this is a relatively common team that's going around at the moment. There are Solgaleo teams going around, generally paired up with Spectrier. Spectrier can go for the Bulldoze next to the Solgaleo, and that activates its weakness policy, but doesn't drop its speed because it has the full metal body. So you can drop the opponent's speed while activating your weakness policy and then go for some really strong attacks. Now, something that's super important if you want to use this team to note is that Solgaleos, they either run Wild Charge or Rock Slide. So you have to be really, really careful. If they've got that Rock Slide, when they Dynamax and turn it into Max Rockfall, that will one-shot your Ho-Oh. So you have to be very careful. The upside is that most of them are not running much speed. They're very, very bulky, which is also a concern, but they're not running much speed, so that means that your Ho-Oh should outspeed. So I'll show you how you should play against these teams. So my opponent's going to lead off with the Spectrier and the Solgaleo, which is generally what they tend to do. Like, I've faced a few of these teams now, and that's generally what they do. What I have to do in this matchup, I know that the Solgaleo may well have the Max Rockfall, so what I'm going to do is Dynamax my Ho-Oh and go for the Max Guard on turn 1 because Max Flare does not one-shot this Solgaleo. In fact, Max Flare in the sun doesn't even one-shot this Solgaleo. We need an extra boost, whether that's Helping Hand or Flower Gift, it doesn't really matter, but we do need an extra boost to be able to take out this Solgaleo. So they are going to Dynamax their Solgaleo, and you can see because I Dynamax first that Ho-Oh is faster than their Solgaleo, despite Solgaleo having a higher base speed than Ho-Oh. So they can be faster than Ho-Oh, but generally these are a lot bulkier because they've got that weakness policy that they want to be able to activate, and they've got like Max Steel Spike and Max Quake to naturally increase their bulk. So generally they're not faster than Ho-Oh, which is great. Now this turn I can set up the Sun, because what I'm planning on doing is taking this Bulldoze. They go for a Snarl though, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, usually they would go for a Bulldoze there, because that would activate their Solgaleo's weakness policy, but it would also hit my Whimsicott, so I can set up the Sun and then switch my Whimsicott out into the Cherrim, and then immediately we've got the Sun and the Flower Gift boost, which means that on the following turn I should be able to one-shot the Solgaleo. So that's the idea behind that. You see they go for the Max Lightning here. This one actually didn't have Max Rockfall, it had Max Lightning. Still, with a weakness policy boost, that would be able to take down my Ho-Oh. Again, they go for a Snarl though. I wasn't really sure why they were going for Snarl so much. It doesn't really matter in this matchup because if they were going for Bulldozers, it wouldn't have affected my Ho-Oh at all. I was just surprised that they weren't going for the weakness policy activation. I assume what they were trying to do was to get me to activate their weakness policy. but I wasn't going to do that because I was just going to knock them out because I had all of these attack boosts, so I could easily do that. I went for that Helping Hand just in case, but I think I only needed the Sun and either Flower Gift or Helping Hand, but I went for both just because it did so much damage. Now they bring in their Tapu Fini. We can just go for another Helping Hand with Cherrim, and then we can basically take out anything that we want to take out. They're going for more Snarls. I know that this Spectria has Will-O-Wisp, which again, that's a great benefit of Ho-Oh. Being a physical attacker, it can't be burned because it is the fire type. So the Spectria isn't able to decrease my damage output that way. So maybe Snarl is just the best way to try to get some damage on. They do have Shadow Ball though, so maybe going for Shadow Balls into Ho-Oh would have been better. But because I've got the Flower Gift boost and I have massive special defense naturally, it still wouldn't have been giving them too much damage there. So I can kind of understand why they're going for Snarls. At least it would drop Cherrim's damage output that way. But now we can go for a Helping Hand and go for a Sacred Fire into Ho-Oh. Each of these times I've gone for Helping Hand. I actually am not sure if it was necessary. I probably would have got the one-hit KOs regardless because of the Sun Boost and the Flower Gift. And the Spectria goes for one more Snarl. I wasn't sure, maybe it was like Choice Scarf or something, but no, it's not, because on this following turn, I go for the Brave Bird, and we can see that it is Focus Sash. So yeah, it was just a strange Spectria. I was expecting the Bulldoze, but I think they were just worried about the amount of damage I would be doing to them, and they didn't want to knock themselves out. And the cherry on top, as you would have it, is that we get a forfeit here. Cherrim does get the final KO with the Pollen Puff, and that takes out the Spectria. Yeah, so even if they were going for Shadow Balls, because I have Pollen Puff, which can heal up my Ho-Oh, and because the Helping Hands weren't necessary, it really wouldn't have mattered if they were spamming Shadow Ball into Ho-Oh because I could heal it up anyway. So that one, again, is like a pretty dominant Ho-Oh match against a relatively common archetype at the moment with the Solgaleo and the Spectria combination. So I wanted to show you how to beat that as well. In the interest of showing you one-hit KOs, I just wanted to show you this quick clip. It wasn't as interesting a match, but in this one, my opponent had set up Reflect, and they've got a Dynamax Calyrex Ice Rider, which is an extremely bulky Pokemon. This thing, if you haven't seen its stats, you should check them because they are absolutely insane. This is one of the bulkiest Pokemon that exists, and they've got a Reflect. But we do have Cherrim in the sun with Max Flare, and they activated my weakness policy with their Regieleki previously, so I am able to one-hit KO their Calyrex there. I just wanted to show you it because I always enjoy one-hit KOing their Dynamax restricted Pokemon. But yeah, that was just another fun one to show you. So this next match, I want to show you a team with the very common Lapdog archetype. I don't know if you've heard that terminology, but it's Lapras and Zacian. And I want to show you how we tried to take on this team. This team was actually really threatening because they have a number of Pokemon that take on Ho-Oh pretty well. They had Zapdos, and they had Lapras, and they had Landorus, and they could have brought any of them, but I'll show you how they handled this matchup. So they send out their Incineroar and Amoonguss. Incineroar is a really tough for Ho-Oh to break through because it has the Intimidate and it resists your fire type moves, which I like to try to boost in the sun. None of your other moves get the fire boost in the sun. So it's quite hard to break through generally, and it's not a great matchup. So it's definitely good for them that they brought that. But on this first turn, I'm just going to double protect. It's a relatively passive lead for them. With the Incineroar and the Amoonguss, there's not much offensive pressure there, so that's not too bad. If they had led with Lapras, I could have tried for a weakness policy activation on the Ho-Oh by setting up the sun. But in this one, it's not too bad because I do really threaten the Amoonguss, and generally Amoonguss, they might carry the Cobra Berry, that they're always going to be quite weak to Sacred Fire. Even if they're Focus Sash, Sacred Fire has a very good chance to burn, so in that case, it's relatively strong play to go for the Sacred Fire into the Amoonguss. Even with the attack drop, I'm going to definitely do a ton of damage to this. And you can see that the Amoonguss just about hangs on. I was really surprised because we didn't see a Focus Sash activation there, so I was really surprised that it did manage to just hang on. But yeah, the Incineroar takes a ton of damage, and fortunately they went for Rage Powder rather than a Spore that turn. Now I can bring in my Heliolisk, And this is pretty cool because we've got a solar power Heliolisk here. This was actually, a late addition to the team. I kind of like it, and you'll see why it's a pretty good synergy with Ho-Oh on this next turn, because we're going to Dynamax my Ho-Oh now. And now I do that even though I've got an attack drop, because on my Heliolisk, they're going to protect their Amoonguss. And on my Heliolisk, I've got the Parabolic Charge. What that does is it hits all of the other Pokemon, including Ho-Oh. So it's a relatively weak move, although you can see with Solar Power and Life Orb in the sun, that's going to do quite a lot of damage to Ho-Oh. But it does allow me to activate my weakness policy, and now I can go for a max Airstream into the Incineroar to take that out. Parabolic Charge was relatively safe there because obviously it would have taken out the Amoonguss as well. So that was a pretty nice play to have there while activating Ho-Oh's weakness policy. I get the speed boost, so now I'm faster than Zacian, which is really nice. And yeah, the opponent has to go into their Zapdos because it's the only thing that could potentially take a hit. Despite me being now +1 attack in the sun, so I'm going to be doing a ton of damage with my fire type moves. They're going to Dynamax their Zapdos because really it's the only way that they stand a chance of living any attack here. And I'm going to go for, with my Heliolisk, I'm going to go for a Thunderbolt into the Amoonguss to try to take that out. As they go for the Rage Powder here, I thought that might be the case. It's quite nice that Heliolisk is faster because it means that I can get my really powerful Max Flare off into this Zapdos, and we can see how much we can do. I was hoping to do quite a lot of damage. Is it going to do quite a lot of damage? Well, we're about to find out. We go for the Max Flare, and it does... yeah, it does a lot of damage. It almost one-shots the Zapdos. Unfortunately, because we did get the Intimidate on the first turn, we don't quite take it out. But you can see here, because of Ho-Oh's massive special defense, even without the Flower Gift special defense boost, we can actually take the Max Lightning from, like, not even full health. So yeah, that was a pretty good turn. We got tons of damage on the Zapdos, and now they go into Zacian. And the next turn, I know that my optimal play is going from Max Flare into the Zacian. Zapdos only has one Life Orb hit left, but I wanted to see how much damage Heliolisk with the Solar Power boost, Life Orb, and now Electric Terrain boost does to Zacian. And it doesn't quite take it out, unfortunately. I thought it might take it out, and so I Airstream into the Zapdos instead to try to prevent it from getting an attack off. Unfortunately, that wasn't the optimal play. If I had Max Flared into the Zacian there, and Thunderbolted into the Zapdos, I mean, I would have won that turn because Zapdos only had one Life Orb hit. But I just wanted to see that Heliolisk out because I wasn't aware of it. Now I still have a chance to win this because Zacian's low, Zapdos only has one Life Orb hit, but there's a 50-50 on this turn I have to make to see if Zacian will protect or not. Because if it protects and I attack into Zapdos, I win. But if it doesn't protect and I attack into Zapdos, Zacian KOs my Ho-Oh and I lose. So it was a bit of a 50-50 there. Unfortunately, I call it wrong. I attack into the Zacian as their Zapdos attacks and the Ho-Oh goes down. Zapdos will go down, but Cherrim on its own, it's only got Pollen Puff, which is quad resisted by the Zacian. If I have Giga Drain here, I stood a chance of maybe winning. Even then, I don't think that would have won. I probably needed, I don't know what move, maybe Energy Ball would have taken it out, but even then, I think this match I generally just underestimated Zacian's bulk. So there was an optimal play that I could have made. I do actually have the Focus Sash on this Cherrim, so I am going to survive one hit. So maybe if I did have a different move on the Cherrim to do some damage to the Zacian, I could have won here. But even then, I'm not sure if Energy Ball would have even KO'd because I'm not special attack invested. So yeah, you can see that's not going to do anything and they're going to take me out the following turn. So that was a bit of an unfortunate turn of events at the end of that game there. I just wanted to show you the Heliolisk build and why it's got good synergy in this team. You can see that it does tons of damage in the sun and it has the Parabolic Charge to help out the Ho-Oh. But I wanted to show you this battle because it's another archetype to try to go against with the Ho-Oh team, and I don't want to be the kind of YouTuber that only posts wins because the shade I'm receiving from Weedle to Needle at the moment is way too much. So I thought I'd show you this. And also, Shout out to Weedle to Needle because they were the one that suggested the Heliolisk solar power on this team, which I really liked. It does do a ton of damage to Ho-Oh in the sun with the parabolic charge, but still having the option to activate your own weakness policy is really neat. So let's move on to the last battle. This one's a bit different, and I really like my opponent's team. They've got a Zygarde team. Zygarde is super bulky, especially if you can activate its ability at half HP. It's really, really bulky and can set up coils, do a ton of damage. So I think it's a really interesting choice. I want to try to build around Zygarde myself because I think it's a really cool choice. And I think the synergy on their team is great as well because they've got the Comfey there, which can potentially activate weakness policy on the Zygarde, can keep it healthy with floral healing, which could be real pain to go against. And then nice synergy with the Rillaboom as well, because that gives grassy terrain, which can grant Zygarde some passive recovery each turn, but also boosts the amount of HP healed by Comfey's floral healing too. So it's a super bulky team, it looks like. It's probably going to be a pain to fight, but I think it's a really nicely put together team, so props to my opponent for that. So let's see how we can deal with this. My opponent's going to lead with their Zygarde and Celesteela, two very bulky Pokemon. That's fine. I'm going to lead with my Ho-Oh and Tapu Fini, and that, I mean, it's pretty decent, apart from I'm actually really scared that the Celesteela might have a rock type move. More and more of them are running Meteor Beam, and Ho-Oh does not like that matchup at all. So my opponent is actually going to switch out their Celesteela. I didn't predict that. I go for a Protect, just in case they want to Dynamax turn 1 and go for a Max Rockfall into my Ho-Oh. I wanted to just scout for that a little bit. I should be able to take it relatively easily through Protect. But that's not what happens. They switch out into Comfey and go for 1,000 arrows. And it does a decent amount of damage to Tapu Fini. I was expecting more of a coil move, so I go for Calm Mind, because I think if I start boosting up, that's a good way to try to take out Zygarde before, just basically I want to one-hit KO it so that I don't put it into the its ability range. Basically, when it gets to half HP, it gets a massive HP boost and just becomes impossible to take down. So this next turn, I actually switch out into my Cherrim here, despite Sun not being up. I think it's actually a really good matchup in this instance. So what I'm going to do is just go for another Calm Mind. These 1,000 arrows are actually doing a lot of damage though. It looks like it's probably an attack invested Zygarde, so maybe slightly less bulky than some of the other ones that you sometimes see. And on this turn, my opponent goes for the Draining Kiss into their Zygarde. They activate that weakness policy, and that means they'll be doing double the damage to my Tapu Fini this turn, so can potentially take it out. But what my opponent didn't factor in is that I'm running a super fast Cherrim. It's max speed, which allows me to get off a Pollen Puff before that they can get their 1,000 arrows off, which means that Tapu Fini can easily survive. And now I can go for a +2 Moonblast into that Zygarde, and I can take it out, which is so good. So their Draining Kiss put it in range of my Moonblast, and that worked out so well. And Cherrim is doing work despite not being in the sun, which is so nice, and that's what we love to see. Because, you know, sometimes the sun doesn't always shine. We just got our two girls here, and they're doing work despite it not being the sunniest of times. Now, because I've got a +2 special attack, +2 special defense Tapu Fini, I want to Dynamax it. Despite being at less than half health, I know that I can heal myself up a little bit with Cherrim, and I know that I've got a really good matchup against these two Pokemon. So they're going to go for Draining Kiss, and that's going to critical hit. So that ignored my special defense boost, but it still did absolutely no damage. And I can go for a Pollen Puff into my Tapu Fini here, and go, as the opponent goes for a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt does very little damage because of my special defense boosts, and I can get the Max Geyser off. We're going to set up the rain. It's not a very nice weather for my poor Cherrim here, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be in the sun to be good. It's doing amazing work here, supporting the Tapu Fini so well. Now we've got the rain up. Overheat's not going to be doing much damage into Cherrim either. And we're not going to be bluffed by any of these ally switches today. We're just going to go straight for that Max Geyser into the Rotom slot. They're going to get a tiny little bit more Thunderbolt damage on me, but we can take that Rotom out with a Max Geyser, because I kind of thought that an ally switch would be coming in at some point. Like, they didn't have too much else to do with their Comfey right now. So we can take out the Rotom there, which is great. Now they're just left with their Celesteela and the Comfey. They do still have their Dynamax though, so that's something to watch out for. But yeah, Cherrim's been supporting so well, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you, Cherrim. So you can see that they are going to Dynamax their Celesteela here, and it's slightly concerning, but I do still have my full HP Ho-Oh in the back, so I'm not too worried about that. And I've still got one turn of Dynamax with my +2 Tapu Fini in the rain. We should be able to do quite a bit of damage to this Celesteela, so let's see if that's the case. They go for another Draining Kiss into Fini. You don't really see its HP go down at all. Although Comfey does seem to recover some HP, so it must have sucked something out of Tapu Fini. I shouldn't say that. That doesn't sound right. Anyways, we get the Max Sky Drop. That's +2 special attack in the rain, but it does nothing to the Celesteela. Well, it does do something, but it doesn't do as much as I was hoping. And yeah, and then it goes for the Airstream, which does kind of a lot to a protecting Cherrim. So I wasn't sure what the set was. I thought it was specially defensive, but then it did a bit more damage than I would have expected to my Cherrim. So not really sure what's going on there. We go for a Helping Hand here because Cherrim's probably going to get taken down this next turn, and that is what happens. They go for the Draining Kiss into the Cherrim. Goodbye, Cherrim. You did great, even though you weren't in your preferred weather. But yeah, the Comfey heals a little bit. My Tapu Fini being at +2 special defense should be able to survive any hit the Celesteela goes for. I was kind of happy that the Cherrim was taken down by the Comfey because it meant that Celesteela's not getting any special attack boosts with Beast Boost. It's got a speed boost here, but that's kind of okay. They've got 2 speed boosts now. Celesteela dodges a Muddy Water, but as long as I can take out Comfey, that's fine, because I don't want them going for floral healing or ally switches. It starts to get really annoying. I'm going to switch in my Urshifu here, because I want to wear off the Sun before I bring in my my Ho-Oh, and at the same time I can like ignore any defense boost they want to go for with the Wicked Blow. So I thought that that was a more appropriate switch in here. They end up going for the Steel Spike. If they'd gone for an Airstream there, that would have been slightly more concerning because it would have taken out my Urshifu and got a special attack boost potentially, but I still have my Ho-Oh in the back, so I was kind of hopeful that we could deal with it that way. And now their Dynamax has ended, I still had Ho-Oh and everything, so they just quit. So that was a nice win. I wanted to show you that one because I just kind of like Cherrim and Tapu Fini being goddesses in the rain and doing a ton of damage. But I looked at the Celesteela set after the match. They did have Meteor Beam, but they were AV as well, which is why they weren't taking much damage. So as long as they were outside of their Dynamax, my Ho-Oh would have been able to take the Celesteela on fine because they didn't have the Power Herb. So I could have definitely taken that on. So anyways, those were just some games with my Ho-Oh team that I'm really enjoying using because of the glorious Ho-Oh on it, but also because Cherrim is a majestic little creature. So it's a really fun team. Definitely try it out if you want to. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like to support and subscribe for more content like this. Also follow me on Twitter. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.